how do you stay updated on industry news and best practices? I am just so inundated with stuff and newsletters and, at the BBB, right? Isn't it 4Bs? Anyway, passing that, even more information. And it's just information overload. And I kind of don't know where to start, where to stop. How do you guys handle that from your perspective? And Tristan.
Actually, this group would be a perfect example. I don't stay in bookkeeping or accounting very on a regular basis. And I know I'll always learn weird things I'll learn lingo and jargon, which will just allow them to be more familiar with me. And whenever I do have those questions, I can come to it. So often I will go to mastermind groups that are in that industry because they'll kind of reflexively know that. And I just have severe ADD, and YouTube seems to be my primary medication. And I trick myself into productivity by learning things that are interesting. So I tend to cover a lot of the other topics that way. Again, just justifying unproductive time with pseudo productivity. But those are my primary of staying up to date. YouTube and Mastermind and other networking groups that have a specific purpose.
How about everybody else? And Anik, hi.
Hi. I've been blessed throughout my business with different people who actually enjoy doing that research and staying up to date. Especially like in California, HR law can get really back when I tried to do that for my clients. Now I just give them generic, like, oh, if it's for this, you need to consult someone and make sure you're compliant. Right. I don't offer employer compliance stuff anymore. I don't even try because it's just too complicated. But I do know enough to know when to tell my client, you got to consult somebody who knows the law about this, right? So I guess my answer is I'm a generalist, and I try to have people around me who specialize with things. Some of like this group and some of the accountants in Kim's group are really useful for that. But otherwise, I skim. I try to be a generalist so that I have a general idea of the areas where I'm like, oh, we need an expert for this. We need somebody who knows about this.
Sure, makes sense. Yeah, I know that with the BBB, whatever act, that there are significant changes in some of the labor laws pertaining to overtime and to tips. So, I don't know the details, but I'll have to read up on it now that I have a little bit of time. Well, I think finding those really knowledgeable people that that we develop a relationship, and like Tristan pointed out, and others that just have it, and Nick, you just having opportunities like this to develop those relationships so that we feel comfortable. Because how many times do you go and you have a question, and one of the things that you have a question about, you get multiple answers and they're all different. And why are they different? You're asking like a simple question and they're all different. So I don't know if it's a matter of perspective or what, but
I've actually encountered that with ChatGPT.
Oh, good one.
And then I called him on it. I was like, hey, over here you said this, over here you're now saying this. It was about California employment law and sick pay accrual, the mandatory sick pay accrual. And looked back and was like, oh, that's from this old law and this is the current. I was like, okay, well, I didn't realize I had to tell you that when I'm asking you about client stuff, you should only inform me of the current status, not the previous ones. And
good catch.
I did it.
It's getting better. Well, so if I'm using ChatGPT, I ask the same question in different ways to make sure it's going to keep giving me the same answer.
I did hear a solution to that the other day that really kind of helped me, particularly when you're talking about tax issues. You can actually ask ChatGPT to draw from a particular source within a date range.
That was already there. That was already there. But rather than give it a date range, if you specifically tell it to only tell you about current rules and regulations or current law,
that's a little broad.
That solved the problem. Yeah, it stopped doing that to me after I was like, hey, blanket anytime I'm asking you about compliance. And now it only ever tells me about current law. I have a folder for that stuff. So.
It's not a real brain, though, right? You got to remember that.
Yeah, no. I mean, we're right. So if any industry is equipped to understand garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yep.
And
for sure.
That was an example actually of having ChatGPT help me understand what garbage I put in, that it's giving me garbage, right? Because I didn't understand how come it was giving me different answers. And so I didn't figure out what garbage I was throwing in. So I asked it, like, why are you giving me conflicting answers? And it told me how come. Like, it wasn't that I'd put garbage in, it's that I'd forgotten to tell it to keep the garbage out. Like, So,
Yeah, good
Some
point.
people's
That's a
kids.
instruction is misdirecting, and sometimes the instruction we give it is lacking information for it to be accurate. But yeah, the danger is like in 5 years, most of the information online will come from AI, and we won't be able to tell what's true and what's not. And we will have to resort to always using what Don was saying, always telling it what source. Like if I want something about federal tax stuff, I'm saying I'm limiting the source to the IRS. If it's a state employment stuff, I'm limiting the source to the state websites, so that there's no interpretation of the law that comes into its conclusion.
Yeah, great point. Definitely. So, Don, how do you keep up on everything?
I go to like the broker websites. I subscribe to their newsletters. I look at their industry marketing and journal stuff, and I subscribe because you get 300 emails a day when you do that, but you get pretty quick at determining, is this new information or is this a regurgitation of yesterday's stuff, right? And so it kind of tells you what's going on. And then particularly some of the mergers and acquisitions or broker bases, BizStats, and some of these other places, they're pretty good at telling you what's relevant this week. And so when you're dealing with a particular topic in my lane, for instance, I always lead with, let me go get you the current reference for that, because it isn't, I don't know, it changes, right? And so if I'm going to buy some time to get the current numbers, and I'm going to go as of yesterday at 3:00, but don't hold your breath for next week, right?
Love it.
Disclaimer accepted, I hope, right?